Hi guys, welcome to the video. As you can see, not in the garden today, but in our surrounding local area. And as you can see around me on either side here, absolutely laden full of blackberries, which is the reason I was out here the previous day with my youngest daughter. Luckily for me, just over the bridge over my shoulder, we also found some wild plums. So that's where I'm going to take you guys now. So I'm really happy to have found this tree, as we have a plum tree at home, but the plums, our bountiful harvest, that will be 3, are still yet to ripen. So these trees are easily missed unless you're as fortunate as me, where they are actually just ripening. So if you're not looking out for them, you still might miss them. But these plums have a characteristic golf ball sized fruit with a kind of purple reddish skin when ripe. So let's grab one of these and see exactly what it tastes like and looks like inside. So let's test out the old legs, see if we can grab this one. So came off the branch a little bit harder than I'd expected. With my weight coming down, pulled it off nonetheless. So let's have a look and see what this looks like inside. So now that we've got our fruit, I've just moved to a quieter location within this thicket of trees, just so I have less people looking at this mad 30-year-old talking about fruit to a camera. But let's have a look at it then. So these plums, like I said before, they're often purple or red, but sometimes that is disguised by this kind of almost powdery surface coating. That powdery surface is known as a bloom, and that's what keeps things like moisture within the plums so they don't dry out in the heat of the season, and also it will help deter pests from getting into it, of which with plums you'll find there are a few that unfortunately do not make it. So let's have a look inside this one. So this is actually slightly green inside, which suggests it is a day or 2 away from its perfect ripeness. This one should be yellow when it's at its peak ripeness, but there are plums that also will be slightly red. And I can confirm that this is definitely a plum, because firstly I know what they taste like, but secondly, if I just open this up a little bit and pull out the seed, which is also known as a stone. These stones, the fact that it's hard to remove says that it is definitely not ripe yet. These stones are often flat, kind of oval-like structures. There'll be one of these in every single fruit. For us, because they're slightly big, it's quite fortunate, because we don't really want to be eating these, particularly biting these and crushing these, because unfortunately they do actually contain a compound that can be converted into hydrogen cyanide, which, if you know anything about poisons, can kill you pretty quickly. So I want to help with seed dispersal and hopefully plant another tree, so let's just get rid of that one. And let's see how we can identify the plum tree if we don't have access to their fruits, or we want to potentially scout out an area for future harvest during the late summer, which is what we're in currently in July, the UK. The first thing you can look at is leaves. Because plums are in the genus Prunus, they have this characteristic oval leaf with serrated edges, and they're roughly anywhere between 5 to kind of 10 centimeters long. The leaves will alternate either side on a growing branch, and they often have a kind of fuzzy feel to their base. The second thing you can look out for is its blooms or its flowers. We're not in the correct season, so I've not got a perfect example to show you, but plums are one of the first flowering plants that you'll see, alongside things like sloes. Plum flowers have 5 petals that are either white or slightly pink in colour. One of the best ways we can distinguish them from other early flowering plants such as sloes and cherries is the fact that they have really short, stubby stems to their flowers, and they're often really tight on the branch. Another thing to look out for is the cluster, the number of actual fruiting or flower buds there are in each of them. Plums often have 2 to 4 buds per flowering cluster. So have a look out for that next time you're looking in early spring, and it might give you some indication. There's actually one other feature that I look out for, and that's to do with the plant's stems or trunks. So the last place I look to try and identify a plum tree comes by looking at its stem or trunk. This is often more noticeable on immature or young plants, but if you see closely, you might notice these horizontal white lines. These are actually known as something called a lenticel, which is a part of the trunk which gas exchange is able to take place in. So now that we've looked at identifying the plums, let's get to some harvests. Fortunately for me, I've borrowed this nifty grabber from my brother. So hopefully I'll be able to reach some of the taller ones without having to jump like a madman all the time. The problem is going to be trying to catch them. A lot of them is probably just going to hit the floor. So let's get a few of these and try not to ruin the fruit spurs for future years. So some of these are even out of the reach of my trusty grabber. So one of the best things you can do, albeit there's a few nettles underneath, is give the branch a little shake. Any of the ripe, kind of juicy plums will be ready to fall off, and you can just go and collect them afterwards. Just give that a little shake. Okay. If you're really struggling to find any plums and the tree is big enough, you can just straight up climb it. I think this is the first time I've climbed a tree in about 10 years, but as you can see, I've been heavily rewarded. So whilst I'm up here, I'll just give you a little history about the plum, just so it looks even funnier to the people walking by. So plums aren't actually native to the UK. They're actually a feral ancestor, a variety from Asia that was first cultivated probably over 10,000 years ago now in the Neolithic period. So this tree that I'm stood on now will be a seedling of a cultivated variety that's just spread. And you didn't see me getting here, but this little thicket surrounding me, these are all plum trees. So plums are actually quite fascinating in the fact that not only can they self-seed quite easily, they will also sucker underground. So what that means is their roots are quite shallow on the surface, and that means that if they're a sufficient distance away from the plant, they will then sprout and actually lead to the formation of a new tree, just like that one up front, which is a little bit difficult to see. So let's grab a few of these whilst we're up here. Not at all dangerous. Last one before I risk falling to my doom. So back in the comfort and safety of our own garden with our lovely plum tree sat right behind us, which has 3 of its own plums ready to be ripe in the next few days that I'll make a video on soon. One little thing I wanted to say is whenever you're harvesting plums, obviously you may not be the first one to get into the lovely ripe flesh in the middle. For example, this one here, if you notice that there is a little hole or a crack in some of the fruits, when it comes to opening it up, you may find a little wriggly companion like so. I don't know if you can see that. So that there and those little black bits there is probably its poo. I'm not going to eat that one, so I'm going to leave that one for the birds just in my garden over there. So obviously though, it's not all negatives. Plums are incredibly healthy fruits. They actually have a chemical in it called sorbitol, which is a sugar-based alcohol that is used as a natural laxative. But I'd say quite nice, bountiful little harvest there for, I don't know, what, 20 minutes worth of picking. So I'm hoping I've encouraged you with this video to go out there and have a look, see if there's any plum trees near you, and let's see if you can find harvests just like these that you can get for yourselves and your family.